Are ready. All right, welcome to the Communications Committee webinar. Hopefully we're going to be helping you to have good communications applications this year for the Communication Award Program. My name is Ron Patterson. I am the National Chair, and my committee, we have Iris Mays from the Western region. She is our most experienced National Committee Vice Chair that we have here from University of Idaho. There's Laura McDermott. She's our second most experienced Regional Vice Chair from the Northeast region, Cornell University. We have Daniel Leonard from down in Florida, University of Florida. He's probably our most actually experienced person. He was the Florida State Chair, and in reality, Florida does a really good job and they send in lots of applications. So Daniel's had a lot of experience as opposed to some of us in some of these other regions. And then we have our North Central region Vice Chair is Jeremy Jubenville from Michigan State University. We'll all be taking part of this program just a little bit today to kind of help answer some of your questions and maybe give you some answers that you haven't thought of on your applications. So this is the agenda we will follow today. I'll do a little bit on introduction. Daniel will cover the website and abstracts. Laura will talk about the guidelines. So that eligibility thing that's up there at the top, I'm not going to cover that. We'll have Laura. She's got a good presentation on that one. The password issues and things like that that we run into with our judges, Jeremy will cover, and what we really should be looking at. Iris will cover the timeline and some idiosyncrasies of the feature story. It's kind of a strange one. See, people have trouble with that one. And then I'll wind up at the end. So hopefully we'll be able to get that. And if you've got questions, great. We'll get to that. So any questions at this point, when you have questions, if you'll put them in either the chat or the Q&A, whichever one I guess you feel most comfortable with, we'll try to keep tabs on those. If the presenters don't see them, we'll let them know that there's something there that they need to answer. So is there anything in the chat that I need to answer, Iris?
No, there's no questions right now.
Okay, very good. All right, I will stop sharing then, and Daniel, you can take over.
All right, so thank you everybody for joining today. It's just a few minutes after noon here in the Florida Panhandle. I'm Daniel Leonard. I'm the Southern Region Vice Chair this year. Excited to be with you for that. And before I get started, wanted to invite everybody down to West Palm in July for the AMPIC this year in 2022. It's going to be a great event. We've got an awesome week planned out for you, some great tours, some really cool Florida-based entertainment. So that's my plug for that. I know we're on a time limit here, so I'll get into things. Let me share the old screen. So what you're looking at here is the website. But before we get to the website, I just wanted to let you know that your first source is your county agent magazine. You can kind of see that it's difficult, but if you get it in print, that's great. There's lots of information on page 10, 11, and 13 about communication awards, but we'll focus today, focus primarily on the website. So if you're looking for abstract and communication awards information, the first place you want to go, NACAA.com. Shout out to everybody who had a hand in making this website what it is. It's awesome, much improved from previous years. It looks really nice. So we're going to awards and applications. And from here, you can do a couple of things. So this is kind of your dashboard where you can go and view your award applications and nominations. So you can click that, go there, log in, and it'll show you what you've currently applied for or to start a new nomination. And so you just would click the communication award of your choosing that you want to apply for and go from there. Of course, your state chairs and your regional chairs are here to help you with that. Back to award applications, back to the main website. So you can do a couple of other things from here. You can go to communication award. We click that and scroll through there. And we see down here on the left below communication award, a little subheading, information and instructions. We click that And we get the same thing that we see in our county agent magazine on pages 10 and 11. We essentially get the purpose of communication awards, the eligibility and judging criteria, which Ron is going to, I believe, touch on entries. Just kind of tells you how to submit entries, just some basic information, file size, what sort of file it needs to be in, how you can send it to your chairs, abstract information, which I'm going to get into here in just a minute. And then the various categories, of which there are 13. You can kind of look through and see which area your entry will fit best in. And we're going to, several of our speakers are going to go over that in detail. And so it just tells you awards in the 13 categories are as follows based on what you win. And it goes from there. There is an absence policy and a deadline. And at the very bottom of the page, you'll find scorecards for the award program. So let's click that and look. This is what every scorecard looks like for pretty much all the categories. They follow the same format. I would highly encourage you, if you're not on your state communications committee, get on it. It's a great way to see how to judge and how the whole process works. But this is the scorecard. So you're being judged on various things from your abstract, which again, we're about to dive into for the next few minutes, your content, your format, your style, and various other things. And so every entry that comes into NACAA through your various states will have a scorecard like this. And so we'll click out of that. And the last thing I wanted to show you on the website before we move on, we'll go all the way back to the homepage, come to awards and applications again, and let's go to award winners. And why would we want to know who's won an award before, right? Well, one of the reasons for that is that you can see what does well. So we can go to our communication awards. Let's say I wanted to read and see what the personal columns looked like for the previous year. So we can do personal column, all states, 2022, and click go. And so from there are no award winners with that criteria. Oh, because I'm in 2022. Let's go to 2021, which has actually happened already. We're not in the future. And we see our West winner, our national winner was from the West. We can look at Ashley's entry from Arizona and see what she put in that did a good job. And so obviously we're not copying what other people did. We're just kind of looking and seeing what the content level is that we need to be at to win a national award. All right. So with that, that's kind of a quick navigation through the website for communication awards. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and share a different screen. And we're going to go through a PowerPoint for the next couple of minutes. Let's pull that over. Bear with me. Okay. So I put this together, getting the national, submitting an award-winning abstract with Alicia Halbritter, who is just kind of the communications award queen from Florida. She's won half a dozen or so national communication awards in her 4-year extension career. So, and she's been on the communication committee in Florida for a while. So I just wanted to give her a shout out for her help. So there are some insights to abstract writing. It's good to remember that your work matters, the actual work that you're submitting for a communication award, but you really are not going to be able to win at the national level without a good abstract. And so how do you do that? The first thing to do is check requirements. So your word count does matter. You get 350 words in an abstract, so you should use that. But don't include too much useless fluff just because you have 350 words. If you can, like Kevin from The Office said, why say many word when few word do trick, right? So we don't want too many words, but we don't want too few words. So kind of tell what you need to say in a concise manner. You have to include your objective, your purpose, your target audience, and your impacts. So one thing that we see from time to time is that these are like put out into headings or bullet points. We don't want that. Your abstract should be a single paragraph. It'll be evident if you write a good abstract to the reader where your objective is, where your purpose is, where your audience is, and what your impacts are if you write it well. Your abstract really needs to be enjoyable to read and give good background information. So don't just dive in. Tell us why you're doing what you're doing. The main takeaway there is assume that the reader really knows nothing about your program or your work and why it's award worthy, right? So some insights to writing abstracts here. So your writing's important. Make sure you're following the correct format. Again, just the one paragraph. Don't put a bunch of extra headings or bullet points or weird things in there. Make sure your grammar's correct to get somebody else to read it. I like to think I'm a pretty good writer, but every single piece of work that I've ever written had some issues in there. And just having some fresh eyes look at them can help you find them. Make sure your punctuation's right. Remember, we're going to have several hundred entries, across the country. I don't know exactly how many there are, but in Florida, we generally have like 120. So you have a lot of competition. And so just these little things can be what separates you from the next entry. Your abstract layout, again, make sure you follow the guidelines there. You have a good statement of issue or an objective, good methodologies. Tell us what your target audience is, what your impacts were, and how this benefits extension education. Topic needs to be applicable to other regions if possible. So when I look at a good abstract for a project, I like to say, could I take this and do something with it in my own program? And that really makes it more interesting to other folks, because if you make it to the national level, we're all going to be looking at your work, so it needs to be relevant across states ideally. So this is the abstract that's on page 13 of your county agent magazine. This is the sample abstract. It's within that 350 word count. You can clearly see in here we have a purpose. The first sentence tells us that. It tells us how they did it, so their methods, educational activities, how the communication was disseminated, some impacts. So the producer participating in the program indicated value of information gained, so some impacts, and then how you're going to go forward in the future. So this is a nice little abstract that you can kind of base your work on. So as we wrap up here, we see this is an abstract that Alicia submitted about dairy farms in Florida. This was for a fact sheet, I believe, and just giving some background information, a nice purpose, objective, and tells who our target audience is. If all this is clear, you're going to be fine. Some basic highlights of the actual piece that she submitted, the fact sheet in this case, an objective to the fact sheet, some author development, and then finally she closes with some impact. So that's a good one. This is the abstract from the newsletter national winner in 2021. So this is excellent. So we get background info on the relevance of what she did, the author development. So who helped with it? It's important to say what you did in the abstract. Especially if it's a team entry, you got to have that purpose, objective, and target audience. And you can find all of these abstracts on the website. So, don't feel like you have to take a screenshot or whatever of this. You can find them, and I can help if you need it. Some highlights of the piece, some authors that helped her develop it. And then finally, how is this unique and what was its impact? So just summarizing abstracts real quick. As one of my favorite I'm a Florida fan, but one of my favorite football coaches, Bobby Bowden of FSU, he liked to say dadgum. So follow the dadgum rules. I mean, if you don't follow the rules, you cannot win. Use excellent English, grammar, and mechanics. Don't let us nitpick your piece. Don't let your grammar and mechanics be the reason you don't win. Be concise, but in an effective manner. You have 350 words and you can use them. But if you can say what you need to say in less, it's probably better and might be easier to read. Provide relevant facts and figures. That's always important. List your impacts. And again, plan to record impacts. So, when you're developing the piece that you're planning to submit, make sure you're going to have some impact from that and that you have it recorded. It can even be perceived impact. 10 producers say that they're going to do this. Some impact is better than none. So with that, Ron, I'm going to stop sharing and we will move on to the next section.
Okay, do we have any questions for the first section on writing abstracts and other topic there that Daniel covered?
I know we moved pretty fast, but we only have an hour today.
That's right. Okay, we'll let Laura take over then on your topics.
All right. Can everybody see this all right?
Looks good.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk a little bit of, maybe a little bit of repeat, but we'll just talk about some basic guidelines. And the information that Dan was just saying is so true. Reading and following the guidelines is really the most important thing. We are looking for the infractions. Before we start looking at content and what you've actually done, we're looking to see that you followed the instructions. And so basically, make our jobs harder. If it's easy to disqualify things if the directions have not been followed. So please make it hard on us. So Dan showed you the actual website. It is much improved, really lovely, and kudos to those folks who work so hard on that. But it just makes it a lot easier to find things. It's more intuitive and like other websites that we deal with. That page that he went to, the information and instructions page, is where you're going to find all of the information needed to help you put together your entry. So I just kind of broke down these eligibility and judging criteria so that you folks could look at them in one kind of a list, more or less. So basically, in order to enter, you have to be a member of the NACAA in good standing with their state association. And that includes team entry members. However, not every single member of your team has to be part of the NACAA. There are, you as the person who enters it should be the primary author or one of the primary authors, and you should be. And the more the better that are actually part of it, but it doesn't have to be every single person of the team. Extension editors and other paraprofessional extension communication specialists aren't eligible. I think we probably understood that, and they're probably not members as well. Only one entry per class per individual. This has come up a few times in my short tenure where people have entered two things in the same class. I don't know how that even happened on the website, but it was confusing. All classes are open to entries from one or more NACAA members, except for class 2, which is the published photo, and class 5 personal column, which are supposed to be individual entries only. So that's important to remember. Entries must have been first used by the member between March 15th March 15th of 2022 and March 15th of 2021 and March 15th of 2022. That's the time period that we are taking entries from. The entry materials that have already been state, regional, or national winners are obviously not eligible again. And first place national winners may not repeat in consecutive years in the same category. So that's something to be aware of. Communications committee, state, regional, and national chairs are not eligible to participate in this program unless they are a member of a team entry. And then lastly, NACAA policy states that the national winner and the national finalists of the communication contest must register for the annual meeting and professional improvement conference and attend the designated ceremony to receive their award. There is some language on the website about, if you need to be excused, et cetera, but the conference is wonderful. So I think this is one of the real perks for actually entering and being able to have an excuse to go. So again, make sure to read your directions. It is so important. Electronic submission has to be made for all 13 categories. That includes category 8, 12, and 14. That's the video recording, the learning module or notebook, and the bound book. So those things, those materials that support those entries will probably have to be mailed either in hard copy or electronically on a PDF or a thumb drive. But despite that, they have to be entered through the website. They have to have an electronic entry with that very important abstract submitted. So that's just very important. So maximum file size for this submissions are 25 megabytes. We've had some problems, or not problems really, but just little hurdles to get over. If people are taking websites and entering the entire website, how do you judge a website, which is you have to choose portions of that website that fit these criteria and enter those portions. You can't just enter the entire website, which is dynamic, right? There are things being added and taken away all the time. So you really need to make a decision and make that very clear in your entry and in your abstract, what it is that's being, that you are hoping to have judged for this competition. Oops, there we go. So firstly, let's talk a little bit about one of the segments. And every single entry classification, all 13 categories have these kinds of instructions. And in it are all the specific information that you need to really look at in order to have a good entry that won't get disqualified. So audio recording, the presentation, one presentation, not several presentations, but one presentation, and it should not exceed 15 minutes entirely. If you have a 3-minute presentation, that's fine. It does not, that's not going to be short shrift. You are still going to be judged the same, but that 15 minutes is the absolute most that you can enter. Recording can be a complete program or a segment of a radio program, podcast, etc. But you have to, again, if it's a segment, you have to make sure that we understand what we're supposed to be looking to. So listening to. So just be very clear. It would be best if you actually edited that section out and sent that just to us and not tell us to go to time period, whatever, to listen to it. Make it easy for the judges and try to follow the directions all the time. In your abstract, and this is an example of how you have to look at these directions, but in the abstract, indicate the date and time used. That's what you use that audio recording for, when, the stations where the program aired and where it was recorded. And that's kind of an interesting thing, right? But if you did it in the agent's office versus a professional recording studio, we want to know the difference so we won't penalize you if you've done it in your office. You want to submit the electronic entries using an MP3 file or provide a link in the abstract where the recording is located on the web, and then make sure that for the audio file, it's a 10 megabyte maximum file size. So there it all is. I forgot I put these in. Okay. So one of the,
Laura,
yep,
that 10 megabyte, that was in the old website and it just transferred over to the new website. Actually, we're going to make that limit 25 megabytes. So on these, because it says it
great.
earlier
Yes, it
in the
does.
process, it said 25. And so we'll make them all 25 at this point. So that's the limit.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I wondered about that, but I should have asked you. Okay, so this is an area, the educational. So before I move on to this, the other thing I wanted to say about the entries is that all of the regional and the state coordinators and the chairs for the communication committees are here to help you. But that March 15th deadline is really, that's kind of a cutoff. So if you're thinking of, okay, I'm going to enter it by March 15th, but on March 16th, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, that is not going to work. So try to enter things well before March 15th so that we can get back to you and try to clarify things and you can adjust your entry or ask questions before you even do the entry. The other thing that in reality that we have struggled with in the Northeast is we've had some inconsistencies with the chair people. So just finding, this is for you folks to know, just finding who's your state chair and then trying to work forward through me and me work backward through the state chair takes a fair amount of time. And that's another just kind of incentive to try to get things entered or organized in your head about what you want to enter, get all your questions answered well before the deadline. So this is the one other little thing I'm going to cover before my piece is over, and just the difference between an educational submission for a video and a promotional, which is really an event, the promotional event. But promotional video, we've had some problems with things that have actually been more promotional because they're a video, being put under the educational video category. And that will disqualify you because they are not the same entry type, right? The educational video is an actual educational presentation. It's not over 15 minutes long. It can be a segment of a longer program. The video, if the video is longer, you have to figure out which portion you want to have judged. It has an abstract that's submitted for the educational video, and you have to provide the link where the video is located and I'm assuming that this is also a 25 megabyte maximum file size for this one as well, right, Ron? For the educational video?
Yes, but usually you get those submitted with a link in the abstract is fine. You don't have to submit the actual video. If you've got a link to it that people can, that our judges can access without a password, then that's fine.
Right. Okay, great. So the differentiation between even if it's a video that promotes an event, it still needs to be under the promotional piece. So for that piece, the promotional piece, that classification category, you can submit up to 3 methods. So video could be one, a flyer could be another, a poster could be a third. Items, those 3 items are submitted as a package under this category of promotional for an event. And then all of those are judged. And then items need to be submitted in a PDF or an MP4 format or as links to the online sources. In the abstract, you have to include the author's contribution to each piece. So this is important, right? Because some of us have folks that actually help us with how we lay out promotional material, and those people's work cannot be represented here. So it has to be your work. So oftentimes maybe it's not a flyer unless you are really artistic. Maybe it's more of a newsletter article that is done for the purpose of promotion of the event. Items used in this event package, this is another little sticky area that we've had some challenges with, but items used in that event package may not be submitted in a separate entry. So those 3 things that you've chosen for the promotional category, that's it. You don't enter them elsewhere. And you don't have to talk about how each item is created in your abstract, but the abstract should provide event goals and impacts because we want to know how successful those promotional pieces were to promote that program. If anybody has any questions, these are the states that I am tasked with helping. We don't have terribly active programs in a couple of them, so my job is a lot easier than Daniel's, sorry. But it is really important that those of you who are from these states try to think ahead a little bit about what you're doing, and please don't be afraid to contact me. I'd love to try to help you, and email or a phone call is either one is fine. So I wish you good luck. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Go ahead and stop your share. And while Jeremy's getting set up, I want to answer some of these that came in the Q&A verbally so that everybody kind of hears it. Some of the questions are regarding something that was applied last year. If you look at the rules, they must have first been used between March 15th of last year and March 15th of this year. And so if it's something that you actually submitted the previous year, then it would not fit into that category. You cannot reapply that same piece in that category. Even if it was didn't win at state or whatever level, it doesn't fit the time frame for these. We want new material every year, kind of a thing. If it did not win, even if it did not win, but you had submitted it before, again, you can't revamp it. If it's a new piece, fine. If it's the old piece, no, you can't do that. Books, sometimes books have to be mailed, and so you have to be thinking ahead of that and make sure those books get sent to the judges, to the level that they need to be at for that judging to take place, because we only have about 15 minutes. We'll talk, or 15 days. We'll talk about the time frame a little bit later. Let's see. Yes, fact sheets can have multiple authors, co-authors, but the person submitting that should be a major author on it, not like the 4th or 5th or 6th person on the line. However you do that, and then they will all get certificates for that. Let's see. The awards, yeah, they're listed, the certificate, but you got all the co-authors are in that, they're included in the whole application process, and so they all will get a certificate for that. And Right. So yes, make sure in your application you've got all the authors listed, and then when it's on the website, it will have all those will be listed in the application itself. It's just that the main submitter would be a major contributor, preferably the major contributor, the most major contributor, but you need to make sure that it's not just somebody far down the line that's submitting it, just so that the major contributor maybe not qualified to submit it because they're a state chair or a national chair or whatever. You want to make sure that they're the major contributor. Okay, I think that will cover that. Jeremy.
Can you see that, Ron?
Yep, looks good.
All right, perfect. All right, good afternoon, Extension Agent Nation. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. I am certainly a new face on the Program Recognitions Council, so I thought it would help to introduce myself. As Ron mentioned, my name is Jeremy. I am a greenhouse agent with Michigan State University Extension, and I work primarily with commercial flower growers across 7 counties in Southwest Michigan. I am based in Kalamazoo County, which is famous for several things, including the birthplace of commercial celery production in the United States, which is pretty awesome. I'm also an entomologist, formerly by training, so it's probably no surprise at all that I get into biocontrol and greenhouse IPM. More poignantly, I am a 3-time national communications finalist, and while I have been held just shy of that national winner award, I certainly have learned a few things along the way. So I have a couple of thoughts I would like to share with you today. These are some things that can certainly trip people up in their applications. One is online content access, and the other one is something I've been calling post editing. So let's start with online content access. All right, the guiding principle here is that online content in hyperlinks in your submissions should be 100% accessible without creating an account or a profile. So a good rule of thumb is if you have to enter a password to see your content, then you should think about using a different method to show off your awesome and amazing work. And we commonly see this with links to platforms like Facebook and Instagrams, frequently with posts to private groups within Facebook. That's going to be completely inaccessible to judges. So if you feel the need to do that, make sure that everyone can see it really easily. Yeah, and if you can't, then you need to think about another way that you could show the judges what you did. Oh yeah, the tip down at the bottom should also be a guiding principle, in my opinion. I think make everything as easy as possible for your judges. They are volunteers too, and we would certainly like to keep them happy.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it right there. Never mind. I was going to say the exception, but
okay, great. All right, so like everything else in life, there is an exception, of course. So the exception here is that for the learning module in the notebook category, many times these learning modules are on platforms like D2L, which is an example I'm using here in the image. This is some of the work I've been doing with my natural resource colleagues since 2019. So if I were to have submitted the module I wrote, then I would have to provide the judges with a way to access the content of the D2L system. The judges are definitely going to want to examine your work in more detail. So try and make it as easy as possible for them to log in and find your stuff. All right, so hopefully that was pretty straightforward. I am not one for over explaining things. So are there any questions on online content access before we move ahead? Got something, Ron, or not?
I don't see anything right off. I'll see if I can answer. There's a couple here in the Q&A that I'll look at,
right.
but I think you're on.
Groovy. All right, let's move on. So yeah, post editing. Guiding principle here. Show the judges exactly what the public saw and heard. So submissions should originate from a single event in series. And Laura touched on this a little bit in her presentation. So do not stitch together examples from disparate events, so distinctly different events in your season-long or year-round program, and that is the program with the capital P. Also, please avoid touching up your creations to make them look and sound better for the judges. We are interested in exactly how you're communicating with your stakeholders. So an example of this would be of what not to do would be like editing mailers or flyers from different events and combining them into a collage. We have seen things like that. Audio recordings, so creating a composite of several different recordings that came from different dates, right? So, and this is, so I think where a lot of this confusion emerges is a little bit of the terminology that we use. And it certainly confused me when I started in extension and nonprofit programming. So the distinction between a program with a little p and a program with a big P. So, and we tend to use these, we tend to throw these ones around quite frequently. So the big P, of course, being that overarching theme of your entire body of work for a season or multiple seasons or years. A little p would be more like an event, right? And so what you don't want to do is take things from multiple events on completely different topics and put them together into one mosaic. That's not going to cut it. And I think, without hopefully over explaining it, that is all I have on that topic.
Okay, any other questions for Jeremy? I think I got the questions in the, well, let's see, you got 3 open questions here. Yeah, so there's one, if the promotional video was recorded, produced in 2020 and been used for the last 2 years, same with the flyer. In this case, those are out of date. That was it was prior to March 15th of 2015, 2021, March 15th of 2021. And so those would not be eligible. Let's see, learning module, submitting just one module. So for the learning module, what you want, I mean, if it's public access kind of a thing, that's fine. But if it's behind a firewall, behind a password kind of a thing, the judges need to see the whole thing. It's a learning module. It's not just a segment of, you want to see the whole learning module. And so we need to give and work with your university, whatever it takes to make sure that the judges have access to that. And it's not like we're cheating or anything with the system. We want to make sure that you have access, they have access to that so that they can judge your module against somebody else's module. And you want them to see the whole thing. So for the learning modules, you want to make sure that they're done. They've got access to the whole thing. Let's see. Yeah, YouTube link is fine. A YouTube link is great. You don't have to load the whole file if you got a video. A YouTube link is great. They've got access to it. They can see it. Just make sure it's something that's not password protected. Or if it does have a password on it, make sure that it is right there in the abstract so that we don't have to look for it. Make it easy for the judges. Audio recordings. Yeah, now we want to hear exactly what the public hears. That's the main thing. We don't want you to take in, we've had some come in where they've taken several different clips out of other, different programs and putting them into one recording. That's not what we want. We want to hear exactly what the public hears. And so we don't want that post editing. We want to hear it. If it's a longer program, give us that time frame in there. That's fine. We can skip ahead to 13 minutes and 45 seconds and listen to the program. That's fine. But we want to hear what the public is hearing. We don't want you to. We're not trying to judge you on your ability to take something and make it even better than what it was before. We want this to be what the public sees. So that's the thing with these audio recordings and all those kinds of things. Do that so that we can So that's what we're judging it on. Okay. All right. Iris, I believe it's your turn.
Okay, great. I was already unmuted. Sorry about the clicks. I was clicking. I didn't realize. Let's see. Are you seeing one slide
Not yet.
or two slides?
Not seeing anything yet.
Oh, now let's try again.
Okay. Now it's sharing
Is it two slides?
2 slides now.
That should be one slide.
Yep.
So hi, I'm Iris Mays. I'm a small farms and horticulture educator with University of Idaho Extension in Layton County. I'm in North Idaho. We want to emphasize that we want your submissions, and what we are trying to do today is set you up for success. So I just want everyone, especially if you're new, just to get this idea of the March 15th deadline into your DNA. And so a good way to do that too is to mark your calendar, mark it March 1st, try to get your submissions in by March 1st. And that gives you plenty of time to communicate with your state chair. And so we say March 15th, but that is the final deadline, as has been emphasized. So here it is again, March 15th. Then after that, there's a lot of work that the committees do and your state chair. And so the state chairs will have the entries judged by April 1st. Then the regional vice chairs, the people you're seeing today on this webinar, we get the additional entries by April 15th and get those judged. And then the national finalists and winners will be judged by April 13th. Then if you are one of those national winners, we want to see you in Florida this year in July. And then, you know, obviously every year, wherever that conference is, you have to go to get your award. But as Laura said, it's not a have to, it's a get to really. So just again, March 15th, March 15th. Now, if you are, the other topic I'm going to cover is the feature story, where we do have a little bit of confusion because it is not exactly like some of the other categories. So because it's a little bit open-ended, and I will show you, I'm going to take you to the website just so you can see the example winner from last year. But again, follow the abstract instructions, as well as making sure you include that date of publication. And again, that does have to be during those that calendar year. You want to submit a PDF of the original copy of one article, as well as a scanned copy of the final. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so you want to pay attention to your abstract and your scorecard. That's why those little colored boxes are there. And then just note that this isn't like a research article or a journal article. It's not traditional. So we'll see what that looks like. And it could be a bulletin or something like that. And then just note that the rules may change every year for all of these categories. You know, we're reviewing these rules and trying to refine the process and keep up to date. You know, as we know, you know, however many years ago, there was no YouTube. So, you know, things change. So pay attention to the rules each year. And then again, we want a PDF of the scanned published article and the original submission. Okay. A couple tips before I take you to the website. You want to communicate with your state chair ahead of the deadline. I challenge you today to go to your NACAA website and get started and just look up all these different things of how to submit. And, you know, because there's a lot of poking around you can do. It's a really good website, but you do kind of need to familiarize yourself and not do things at the last minute if at all possible. Okay. So let's go. I'm going to stop the share, but I want to go to the website, and I think I have to reshare here. There's a privacy setting, I think, now that keeps. Okay. So we're going to start over here. I've scrolled down to category 6. Can you guys see the feature story scorecard?
Yep.
Okay. And so, so this is where you want to look for the criteria and your metrics for you know, making a great feature story. So you can even look at this criteria if you wish before you write the thing that you're submitting. You can use this now, and if you're even going to submit, like say in 2023, you can use this for this year. So just a good outline. And then now we're going to go to the 2021 winner. Dan showed how to click through here, but you're going to go to the award winners and select a past year, not 2022, but 2021. And so Brooke Latak has won for the national award. So here is the title, Hasty Responses to Foodborne Illnesses. She submitted her abstract, an excellent abstract, and then she has uploaded her feature article here. So when I click on these two links, this is how this looks. It's gorgeous. And so really well laid out, bulletin type publication on the university website. Okay. And then this is what the original looked like. So this is what she submitted as her draft, publication. But this, it says draft here, but this is the final for the award. And so we get to see her original manuscript as well as the final published layout. And so those are those two examples. So, and then one more website here. This is where, again, you go into your NACAA website. Hopefully you guys can see this, and you click on communication awards. You submit, you can submit here.
We're
There's
not seeing that right now.
You're not seeing it. Okay, yeah, that's one of those privacy settings. So I'll just stop my share. One more screen. So you're going to the NACAA website. You're clicking on the awards up here in the top ribbon. And then you have all these options here. We want you to go to the communication awards, which are the main awards for NACAA, information instructions. And this is where you will find how to do everything, the abstract, all these categories, and then go all the way down. And this is where you find the scorecards. So those are my tips for you guys to win awards.
All right, thank you, Iris. So there's one more question here on the, excuse me, on the Q&A. Would a phenology calendar be something that could be submitted? Yes, I love these kinds of things. The problem is, where do you put the darn thing? I mean, they're so cool, and some of these others, we haven't got it yet, but we submitted. Well, we thought we submitted to the board last year. It didn't get all the way to the board for some reason. Anyway, another category. We had 14 before. We dropped one of the newsletter categories, so we had another category that we could fill with all the other cool stuff that you're doing. And so that's where this kind of a thing would fit. Interpretive signs, games, phenology calendars. The problem is with the categories that we have is some of them are pretty specific on the requirements, and it's really hard to fit. I would maybe you might be able to put it into a fact sheet if it's not too long of the calendar. Well, I don't know if it's too many pages, it wouldn't fit in a fact sheet, so it might have to be publication. But anyway, yeah, we don't have that at this point to where we have it for all these other cool things that we're doing, because you guys out there are really, really creative, and it's really nice to see some of this stuff, this wonderful stuff that you're doing, communicating our information back out to the public, and that's what we're all about. So let me do one more. I'll share my.
Ron, could this fit into the learning module category?
Well,
If it was part of an educational program, the phenology calendar?
It could, but it doesn't. How do you compare it against something where it's more of a curriculum class learning module? It'd be tough. I mean, the problem is that they don't usually win because we don't have a good category for them, even though they're really nice materials. So let's see. Is that the right view?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, one more category, computer generated presentation with script. This is usually it's usually pretty straightforward. I mean, 50 maximum of 50 slides with the script. I want to stress with the script. It's not a recording of your presentation. I'm not, a lot of, you got 50 slides in there, or 45 slides. And if you're like me, a 45 slide presentation takes an hour to an hour and a half to go through, or maybe even longer, depending on how verbose you get in the presentation. And I'm not going to have my judges sit through that kind of a presentation for, have several of those, because it's just too long. And so when you submit that, make sure that it's the fist, not over 50 slides, and then you've got the script that goes with it. Now, that script can be a separate document, and usually it is, but it can also be the notes in the PowerPoint. But just make sure you make it as easy as possible for the judges to be able to find that script, so that they can see, with each slide, this is the script that goes with each slide. That's one of those, when they get to hopefully they don't get to my level at that point, but I've had to not disqualify. What happens is they get to my level, and if there's something there they don't fit in the description, there's something that's off, like this one would maybe be, I don't take it off from it, was a regional winner. And so it stays a regional winner, but I don't even consider it as a national finalist because of that, for that reason. So there are some things that may slip past the regional vice chairs, but they're getting better at it. And then I have to be the hard nose, and I say, okay, this one, it just had too many, or he didn't have a copy of the original submission or something like that. And I can't find that. I don't even send it on to my judges because it doesn't follow those the requirements of the application. So Scott Hawbaker will be sending out an evaluation for this webinar to you. He's got all the people who have attended, and so he'll send out an email. And if you'll send those evaluations back to him, that would be great. Any other questions?
Yeah, Ron, we have a question for you. I was trying to answer the brochure category question. How detailed does the script need to be?
That's a pretty good question. Detailed enough that whoever happens to be seeing that slide, the slides are not, I don't want all the detail in the slides. I want the detail in the script. What are you going to say when you're showing that slide to whoever you're presenting it to? That's what the script is for, because I don't put all the information on my slides. I'll put them up there, and the slides are there to remind me to say, this is what I want these people to know about these particular points. And so the detail is in the script. Yeah, so Shannon, the bullet points on the script, acceptable. I think that's probably acceptable, because I definitely don't write scripts the way I actually talk to people. And so you want to make sure in this slide, this is what I'm going to be saying. These are the points that I am going to cover. And so make sure there's enough detail in there that whoever is reading it may not understand the topic you're covering, but when they read the slides, when they read the script, they can see, oh, okay, it makes sense to me. So it's a way of, I know it's kind of a hassle to do that, because that's not the way I do my slides and all that kind of stuff. I have all those points up there, and I'm just going to cover that. But if you're going to submit that to the as an application for an award, again, we want as close a detail as you can to what the public is going to be hearing from you when you give that presentation. So voice over presentations would qualify. No, actually, no, the voiceover presentations, that would be a video. Okay, that basically you've taken that out from the presentation with a script and you've made it a video, right? And so that's the one, those are the ones I do not want to see in the computer generated presentation with script. Okay, now if you have that voiceover presentation, and that's fine, but I still want to see the script, and they don't have to sit there and listen to the presentation, hour-long presentation, to get the gist of what you're saying in the slides. Okay, that's the whole point here. And so if then it becomes a video, and you say, okay, I'll add this, or I'll have this be the 15 minutes that I'll let them watch, that I want you to watch. So it gets really tough. Yeah, a recorded voiceover PowerPoint is basically a video. Bullet points acceptable. Annual impact report. It could be. That's probably about where they would fit the best. We don't have a category for that kind of thing. So an impact report could be a fact sheet, although I'm not sure how well it compete. I mean, it might compete very well. That's about the only place I could think of where that would probably fit. Remember, between the fact sheet and the publication, it's a page delineation. So you got 4 pages, 8.5 by 11 pages for the fact sheet, and anything over 4 pages, and that includes all your university stuff at the bottom, over 4 pages would be a publication. We haven't got a breakdown as far as what's the difference between a publication and a book. But yeah, anyway. Any other
publication as being traditionally more like a journal article, if you got something into any of the professional journals, especially.
It could be. It could be. We're just looking at, I mean, if a journal article, a published journal article would fit into the fact sheet area of things. We haven't really made that, that's an important thing, maybe consider at our next committee meeting. Iris, is that differentiation between fact sheet and
there's other things that can go in the publication, but I just, as a kind of concrete example.
Yeah. Again, it's more of a page. If here's one thing we don't want to see. We don't want you to make a publication say, for example, yeah, I've got a journal article that I submitted, and it fits into this, but it's short enough to be a fact sheet, but there's not as much competition in the publication areas, and so I'm going to bump it over to the publication and make it a publication instead of a fact sheet. No, that's not, they're basically the same kind of thing. Although you may cover more topics, you don't necessarily have to cover more topics in a publication, but the publication it's the size difference here. And so we don't want to have bumping them over from a fact sheet over to publications because there's not as much competition there. If it's under 4 pages or less, and you put it in a publication, it'll get disqualified. Okay. If it's over 4 pages, then it becomes a publication, and don't put it in the fact sheet here. If it's in the fact sheet and it's over 4 pages, it'll get disqualified. So we have to be that way. So follow the rules, read the instructions and follow all those rules for us, and that'll make it a lot easier. I think I covered the bullet points there. That'd be acceptable on that one. So any other questions? I think I got all the Q&A questions up.
There was a question about the makeup of the judging panels, and so I put that into the chat, but basically that each chair, the state chair or the Western region chairs, we put together different committees of judges to judge depending on what the categories are that have been entered.
Right. When you think about it, we've got 13 categories, and I like to have 3 judges for each category. So that's 39 people I have to get to judge these things. Now, some people will do a couple of different categories for me, and that's fine. But that's 39 people that we have to line up. And at the state level, I mean, state level, you can use your state committee and all that kind of a thing. You just have to be watching out for conflict of interest kinds of things at the state level. But I mean, we can use, sometimes it might be extension educators, but they will not have that conflict of interest. Make sure that we send them the right kind of information, so they don't have somebody from their state that they would be pushing that kind of a thing. But we use at the national level at least, and I know when I was doing the regional, we have other people, not just extension agents or educators judging these. And so it could be a makeup of lots of different people. Some of them are professional editors for newspapers and that kind of a thing.
Ron, can I just throw in one little short tidbit for people when it comes to applying? Once you're logged into the system, the dashboard in the upper right-hand corner of the homepage can be your best friend, because if you go to that page, you'll see your edit my profile. You scroll down, you'll see a box for all award application, well, whether it's an award poster, presentation, under that application section, that's where you can click, instead of going through the communication page like Daniel said, which is fine because that's going to include all your guidelines and instructions. But if you want to go straight to the application, go to that dashboard. And then another thing that we've discovered with the Achievement Award, Distinguished Service Award applications that have been forthgoing here the last month is that, let's say you go in and you do a submission for audio recording and you save and continue, but it really wasn't finished yet and you want to come back to it. You're going to want to go back to the little icon that says My Submissions and Applications, instead of going back to that application button and clicking on it, because that'll be starting a new application if you're going to that green shaded box that says award application. So you got to go back to the My Submissions and Application spot so that you can see everything that you've done, and that's where you can submit it there as well. So just kind of a little bit of a tidbit, because we had people going back and it will say they go back to the actual application box after they'd already closed out of the website, and they come back to it the next day and it says there's already an application that's been submitted for Ron Patterson, and then they can't edit it. So just a little bit of a tidbit, using that dashboard, it can be your best friend. And then throughout the process of the judging, we do now have it set up to where once you've submitted an application, if it has been selected as a state winner and moved on to the regional level, it will identify that for you. If it remains in the pending status, that means one of two things. Either your state chair has not selected a state winner yet, or you did not get selected and it's just going to remain in that pending, meaning, okay, it didn't move forward. But if you see, you'll see the progress of it if it moves forward. So anyway, that may have confused people a little bit even more, but and the other thing, if anybody has difficulties logging into the website for the first time, just shoot me an email at nacaaemail@aol.com or exec-dir@nacaa.com, and I can reset your password and get you in.
Okay. And one note, with the old website, we used to get emails when I was a state chair or whatever. I would get emails that the application has been submitted and is complete. That's not going to happen, right, Scott?
It's not. So what I'm going to do is send some general instructions to each of the national chairs to send to your state chairs, showing them exactly where to go on the website to check any submissions that have been done 24/7. You won't be able, a state chair will not be able to approve or select a state winner until March 16th and after. That way they've had a chance to review all of the submissions. But you're right, that we are looking into the email notification for future years, but for right now, there will not be reminders every time somebody submits an application.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to go back to this one last question. If you have a program, little p, with multiple categories of content, can you submit the same program to multiple categories? I don't think so. If you're in one, if you submit it, your video, say for example, you've got videos and fact sheets, or so the fact sheet would be submitted as a fact sheet. That's fine. The videos would be submitted as videos. But if you're going to do a program promotional piece, program promotional package, anything that's used in that program promotional package application cannot be submitted in a different category. I guess that's where I'm trying to get on this one. So yeah, if you have videos that, they're all in this different, I've got a great Master Gardener program, and I've got some videos that I'm doing. I have some fact sheets that have been published and those kinds of things. I can submit those all separately, but I would not submit them as part of that program promotional package. I can't do the fact sheet in more than one place. I can't do the video in more than one place. I guess that's where I'm going to on that. So you can break it apart and have them all different parts and pieces work, and that's great. But if you try to combine them all and then put them someplace else too, that doesn't work.
Ron, you got a chat question there.
Okay, Mark, is the possibility that a state winner could be forwarded to a regional chair and just jumped on me, then disqualified at the regional level because he didn't follow the dadgum rules? Absolutely, that's true. That may happen. The problem is, no, they don't always get the notification that this is why it didn't go on. We're not real good about communicating back down the line. Yeah, this person was not considered at this level because of, for this reason. We need to, and that's probably part of our training back to the state chairs to let them know, and we'll work on making that better so that we can let the state chairs know that these, we have to watch them pretty strict. And this is why this one was not considered at this level. Now, if it's considered and doesn't win, that's fine. But if we say, okay, no, I'm not going to consider that one, we need to work it back down the line. And that's something that we have to work on. And we will make that better, right, committee?
Yeah, I also like to have a little bit of confidentiality and privacy, just like for the judges and for us, so I would say in the case of somebody getting DQ'd at the regional level, they're lucky that they didn't get DQ'd at the state level, even if they are a state winner. So, there's that side of it too.
Yeah, they don't lose the state winner award. They're still the state winner award, but they didn't qualify to compete at the regional level because of a disqualification, something or other. But
the state chairs can DQ people. And should DQ people, or the awards, not the people, but
Yes, and that's a good point, Iris. I would like to point out, state chairs, it would be really good if you could work with your state people and say, okay, I will look at, if you have them submitted by March 15th, I will look at your application. Of course, Florida would have to have about 100 people looking at the applications, but I'll look at the application to see if it would disqualify. Now, you're not judging at that point. You're just saying, okay, I don't see a copy of the scan of your newspaper articles, your personal columns. I don't see the scans. And so it'd be disqualified. Or I don't see the original. That's usually a big one. They send the scan, but they don't send the original. I don't see the original in there. And so it would be disqualified. Would you please get that up to date? So by March 15th, it's complete application and I can send it on to the judges. So that would be a good thing to do from the state level, but you can't say, well, I set the date at March 15th, and so everything's got to be done by March 5th. No, they have till March 5th. If I said March 5th for what I wanted to do, this is just for you to help them, state chairs, if you can. If I set the date at March 5th, they still have until March 15th to complete their application, whether you look at it or not. It's just a way that you can maybe help them out. Okay. I think we're beyond time. I guess Scott hasn't totally kicked us off yet. All right, thank you, everybody. And I hope that we have, like we normally, I got one more question here on the Q&A. Just the impacts were collected as a group, so they are similar impacts.
I think that might be a follow-up question, but if you guys have more questions, you can work with your state chair. If they don't know, they can work with us or Ron to get your questions answered. So that I'm really glad to see so many questions. It means people are thinking it through ahead. Great.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and have a good, what day is this? Wednesday? Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Bye.